Hi everyone, this is the videos, lecture videos for worksheet translation worksheet 5, and this kind of begins after that crucial threshing floor scene. This is the kind of morning after, okay. And as before, please watch the videos while you fill out the translation worksheet. Okay, so again, this is in chapter 3, and then we're going to look at the end of chapter 3 and then the beginning of chapter 4 here. Okay. So we're told this in verse 14. Vatishkav ma ragalotav ad haboker. And she lay down. Shakav, remember, as I said in the preceding week's video, shakav means to lie down, but it can also have kind of sexual connotations, right? To sleep with, right? Metaphorically. And of course, there's a lot of obscuring of exactly what is happening or what Ruth and Boaz did or didn't do when she showed up at the threshing floor. And what the text does is it kind of insinuates that something is happening, right? Or something happened, but never fully tells you. Okay. Oh, okay. So she lay down, right? Vatishkav. And again, a kind of insinuation of sexual activity, but without fully or clearly telling you what's going on. Ma Ragalov at his feet, right? And of course, feet, regal, as well as some other key terms like arm or hand can be used metaphorically to also talk about the genitalia, right? So, okay, some people have argued, well, no, she didn't really sleep with him, or this wasn't about uncovering one's genitalia because of this meme, okay, from his feet or at his feet, right? Although then why put that word here, right? Okay, so again, the writer wants to simultaneously portray a very positive vision of Ruth, right? So it doesn't want to fully state that she, slept with Boaz, but it also wants to imply that, of kind of future sexual activity between the two, especially as it leads to the birth of kind of David down the line, okay? Also, this may be, in its origins, I'm speculating, a kind of fertility agricultural body tale. Okay, so there's, and as a result, you're just kind of winking, the writer keeps winking at the audience, like, what I'm really saying. Okay, so she lay down at his feet, okay, whatever, until odd, haboker, the morning. Okay, so she spends the night, however you want to take that to mean. And now it continues, Vatakom, Baterem, Yakir Ish et Re Ehu. And literally this means, and she arose, this is from kum, va consecutive, imperfect call from kof, vav, maim. Of course, the context tells you this is, Ruth, right? So this is third feminine singular, which unfortunately looks a lot very similar to the seconds, right? But remember that ta, and a lot of the times this ah sound is indicative of the feminine, okay? So she arose, right? Or she got up before Bateren, okay? Before, and now this word again, yakir, I don't have you parse that, I don't know why. And this is from nun, kaf, reish, right? This is in the hifil. You have all the kind of long prefix, the e sound. Nakar, remember, this is a very important word, as I discussed in the preceding videos. It means to recognize, right? Or to it's the same word that undergirds, somebody who is kind of recognition of somebody's kin, right? Also, it's the same word used for a stranger who you don't recognize, right? And there's a lot of plays on this with the story about Ruth, because of course she is a stranger that becomes kin, right? And it's kind of about how a stranger becomes one's family, how somebody who you don't recognize becomes somebody you do recognize. Okay, and there's almost this, hints that the way that you move from a stranger to, move from somebody you don't recognize to somebody you recognize is through this act of hesed. right? Through these actions that show a kind of self-sacrificial element, right? Where you put that person above yourself, that is what also moves one from stranger to familiar. Okay, so in this case, right, it's just word playing again, right? So she got up before, and it literally says, recognize a man at his friend, right? Ray Ahu, or his companion. Okay, so she, literally, figuratively, it kind of, you can translate it as, and she got up before before anyone can recognize each other, right? If you want to kind of put it into kind of generic terms, if you want to be more literal, you can say, she got up before a man recognized his friend. Okay. Um, and of course, there's a little bit of, kind of foreshadowing here too with this word of Ray Ahu, right? Because of course, what happens forward, right, is going to depend a lot on this kind of separation between one man from another, his friend, right? In terms of who will fulfill the levirate marriage, right? Is it going to be Boaz, or is it going to be his Ray Ahu, right? His companion, his friend, right? That is similar to him, but yet is closer somehow in the lineage as Ruth imagines this levirate marriage. Okay. So again, there's a kind of foreshadow, right? Because of course, what happens in the next chapter is going to depend on the kind of agreements that two men, right, who recognize each other, right, because they're kind of part of the same family structure, and how they will work out this deal as to who will fulfill this very kinship-based system of levirate marriage. Okay. So before, a man can recognize his friend, right? So lovely foreshadowing there. Vayomer, and he said, right? This is of course now Boaz, right? All yivada ki ba'a ha'isha ha'goren, right? And he said, let it not be known. Okay, and this is all means, it's a kind of lesser no than the low, right? Low is a much more forceful no. So let it not be known. This is from Yada Yo Dalit Ayin, right? It has this E-A, and it has this doubling in the first consonant. This is a great, all great hints that this is in the nifl. Okay, nifl imperfect. Y has a prefix. Third masculine singular, right? And remember that nifals are the passive counterpart to the call. Okay, so you have to kind of, and by passive, what is usually meant is you just want to put it a little bit further away from the subject. So, do not let it be known, right? Notice how I'm moving it further away, right? Making it passive, okay? Ki, that, ba'a, came, ha'isha, a man, ha'isha, a woman, ha'goren, to the threshing floor. Right. So, it's kind of explaining why she got up so early to leave. Right. And there is a kind of like, what do you call that? The walk of shame kind of aspects to this. Right. Obviously, by the fact that, he is saying, and he said, let it not be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. Right. Obviously, with, Boaz's instruction that she leave before anyone can recognize her, right? That your reputation probably as a woman would suffer, right? So there is some hints of the kind of social endangerment or that Ruth faced as a result of what she was doing. Okay. Hence maybe why she needed to kind of hide. Okay. I do wonder a little bit, right? I think that, of course, the Goran, the threshing floor, is very interesting. I do wonder by his explicit mention that no one should come to the threshing floor, whether threshing floors had a kind of symbolism, right? They were kind of sacred places, especially during harvest. Were women allowed to go there? Right? Or is it that because threshing floors are the places where you de-seeded, where you had, separated the seed, right? The food basically of these wheats and stuff, that, and of course symbolism of the seed is masculinized, not modern biology or anything, whether women were not allowed there, right? So I do wonder why he says that is Boaz in particular. It shouldn't be known that a woman came to the threshing floor in particular. Is the emphasis there on the fact that a woman is not allowed at the threshing floor, especially at particular moments of the harvest? I don't know. Okay, now going forward. Vayomer havi ha-mitpachat asher alayek. Okay. Va'echozi ba vatohez ba. Okay. So, and he said, give it to me, give me or hold, it says give, like have means to give, but you want to use it a little bit more metaphorically here. He said hold out or give, okay, hold out. And this word, okay, I'm going to discuss it a little bit more in a minute. The mantle, okay, that is over you, asher alayich. Okay, and hold it, achaz, and hold it kind of open, right? And of course, she is very obedient, vato has, and so she did so. Okay, and this is what he does next, right? Vayamad shesh so'orim vayashet aleha vayavo hayir. Okay, so and he does that because then he measured out by yamad, right? He measured out 6 maybe units of barley. Okay, and he set it over her, right? So like she's going back with a sack of food. Right, and so with that, right, and he came, and then he immediately after giving her food, he leaves to go to the city. Okay, vayavo ha'ir, and he came to the city. Okay, so he again, Boaz is associated a lot of times with food, right? He's always giving her food, right? In particular, he's giving her more seed. You do wonder again if there's a kind of wink right, as to what Boaz does, right? He's to make sure she's not hungry anymore, he measures out extra seed for her. Okay, and of course seed, right, though it doesn't say seed, right, zera, of course, is euphemistically used to talk about the seed, semen, seed of men as well, right? So again, I do think there's a lot of kind of insinuations or hints here, right? Notice that he is, like I said, constantly associated with food, seed, revival, right? And of course, we know what happens next, right? This food is given to the mother-in-law, right? So he seems to care about his mother-in-law. And of course, that would make sense because he is the one, Boaz, that would be used by God to fertilize in some ways and revive the house of, yes, Elimelech, but a lot, more so Naomi, right? Who would be the one that is really, hurt by the fact that she has no heirs, okay? So he is the one, who will seed Naomi's, in some ways, family line or family tree. Okay. Again, you do wonder if there's a kind of wink there. I'm going to talk about the So'orim in a minute because I think it's repeated again. This word is very interesting, right? So this is, you can tell this is a name, this is a participle that became substantivized from tet, pay, het, okay, and this is actually and it means mantle, right? Hold out your coat, right? I mean, literally, but this is a different word than the one that was used earlier in the chapter. Remember when Naomi says, "Oh, Ruth, put on a coat," basically, right? And so why do they have a switch of the terminology, right? Because this is the same writer, right? Now, and it has to do with probably what this word sounds like, right? But tapach, right, it kind of means to kind of put over, but there's a lot of alliteration, right? Main pay het, right, can mean to spread out. So not exactly the roots of this word, right, tapach, right, but it can mean to spread out or to kind of, things that kind of spread out or span, or it can actually mean to also bring forth children. Okay, I'm gonna look it up really quick to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Again, you do wonder if there's a kind of, tapach means to spread out or stretch, okay? And then, so tapach, right? The root means to spread out or stretch, right? Metaphorically. So really a coat is something that's stretched out, right? But it can also be used metaphorically to bring forth children or healthy, kind of healthy beings. It's only used that way once in Lamentations. And so you do wonder if there's, again, hints to the fertility or the association of fertility with Boaz and now with Ruth, right? Notice that this word to spread out, your, cloak in this case, so I can put in for food or seed, right? I mean, spread out your cloak to put so that I can put your seed. Again, there's kind of sexual, insinuations. Not only that, but it refers probably earlier, remember, to the blessing that Boaz gives to Ruth, where he says, may Yahweh gather you under his wings, right? And there's a kind of spreading image of a kind of mother bird or an eagle a lot of times, or, that kind of, or mother hen that spreads out its wings and protects their children, right? This is an image of God. And remember that kind of Boaz blesses Ruth, saying that he hopes that Yahweh will do that. And there's a kind of same kind of spreading image here, right? Which again, kind of tells you or hints, if you didn't catch that already, that it is through Boaz, right, that God will do or enact the blessing that Boaz gives to Ruth, right? So it is through Boaz, then the kind of ironic, right, or whatever, it's through Boaz that Yahweh will indeed spread out his wings to become kind of this protective mother hen to this family that is nearly decimated. Okay. And of course, the way that God will do that is by using Boaz to bring forth children, which is also metaphorically something that spans out your family. Okay. And of course, it fits nicely with the end of Ruth, where you have this kind of triumphant moment where Naomi is celebrating the spanning out of her family, the revivification, right? So this word holds a lot or connotes a lot of different things that are going on. Okay. Going onward, I guess I'll do one more. Vatavo el hamotah. Okay, now, so he goes one direction. So he gives her like a bunch of seed, right? Again, wink, wink, right? And then we are told vayavo ha'ir, and he goes to the city, and she now is going in the other direction. So they part, right? Vatavo, in contrast, she goes to her mother-in-law, hamotah. Okay, and now she is kind of going to recount what happened. But Tomer mi at my BT. And there's a lot of ways to translate this question. And she said, probably now Naomi, the mother-in-law, and she said, who literally says, who are you, my daughter? Okay, and of course you could do a kind of much more fluid, a different translation of that, right? You can go with, a lot of people go with, how did it go, my daughter, or what happened, my daughter? Some people do, some interpreters say, no, actually that's wrong, right? She's asking about, it's deliberate that she's saying, who are you, my daughter, right? She's asking, has your status changed? Right? Or she's asking about a switch in identity, right? So not only is she asking what has happened in the night before, right? Whether it went well, whether Boaz is going to do the right thing, right? But she's also asking, did Boaz do the right thing? I.e., will he become your husband, or at least a kind of metaphoric, this kind of levirate redeemer kind of husband? Okay. So certainly considering that this text is centered on identity, right? Ruth the Moabitess, right? Whether, how you become as a foreigner a part of Israel's family, considering all of that, it does seem like it's a deliberate choice of words to ask about her identity, right? Also, Naomi has been referring to Ruth as her daughter all along, right? So interestingly, to Naomi, right, Ruth has ceased to be Ruth the Moabitess, right? And kind of, you do get, nice reading is that she has been fully adopted as her family, her kin. Really, she is the closest kin to Naomi now, right? Insofar as all the things that they've been doing together, right? But also this acknowledgement that that what Ruth was doing was in fact to enlarge Naomi's family, and that in so doing, these two women are, despite their ethnicities, kind of in it together, is indeed kin. Okay, and so va tagid, right, going onwards, va taged la et kol asher asa la ha'ish. Okay, and so of course she told, right, this is from va consecutive imperfect, right, third feminine singular from nun gimel dalet. This is a hefil. Okay, this is nun gimel dalet. You'll see this numerous times. Nagad, it's another way to kind of talk about talking, right? She conversed, it's almost that sense, right? Nagad. And you can tell this is a hefil, even though the nun has disappeared. The nun has disappeared, went into the gimel, right? You can tell it's a hefil because of this long prefix. Also, I believe that nun gimel dalet doesn't really appear in the call. Okay, so so she recounted to her, you can separate it, use a different word instead of amar, right? So she recounted to her at, all that he did for her, that is the man, right? And I don't know why it keeps saying ha'ish, right, instead of saying Boaz. Okay, it may be because Boaz, in some ways, though he's an important character, is not an important character. He's really kind of the stud, right? He's there to revive Naomi's family or to give his seed, but really beside that, like they just need a guy of the family to do this, right? Besides that, he's not like super important. He's really a tool used by, in some ways, Naomi, but also by God, right, to revive Naomi's house. So, maybe that's why it keeps kind of referring to her or to him, not by his first name, but the man. Okay. I think I am going to, no, just do one more verse. Okay. Vatomer shesh ha'sa'orim ha'ela natanli. Right, and she said, going further, 6 measures of barley. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a minute. These barleys he gave to me, natanli, right? Ki amar elai, because he said to me, al tavoi rekam el hamotek, because he said to me, you shall not return empty, right, to your mother-in-law. Okay, now of course she's kind of making some of this up, right, because he doesn't really say this, so it's unclear why she tells him that. Maybe she's trying to build him up, make him look nicer to her mother-in-law. It could be that the point of her saying that also is to reuse this word, right? Tavo rekam, right? To return empty, right? So the writer might be deliberately making her say stuff because it wants to kind of throw back these words or repeat these words. And remember, returning empty. Remember that this goes or alludes back to the very beginning of the book, right? When, Naomi says to the women that gather around her, don't call me pleasant or Naomi, no, call me bitterness. Why? Because God has returned her emptiness, right? God has given her bitterness and emptiness in return, right? So of course, the fact that you have the reuse of that, Rekem, this important word, means that this is the point at which, no, God will do the opposite, that the story is now going to flip. Okay. And of course, as soon as they land in Israel, it has been flipping all along, right? Because, all of a sudden you get tons of, there's been, deluge of food since Naomi and Ruth returned to Israel or to the house of bread, Bethlehem. Okay. This word sa'orim is very important. It's repeated twice. It will be repeated again a little bit later in the next chapter. Actually, do I ask about it in the next? No. Okay. It means barley, right? It's from the root sin ayin resh, right? And there might be a reason why it's used so often in this little pericope, right? Sin ayin resh means to bristle or whirl around. Okay, it's also the same word that the same trilateral root that undergirds the word for hair or to storm. Okay, it sounds a lot like sa'ir, hairy, or a goat, right? Goats are hairy. Okay. Or to talk about the shower rain. And so what you really get with this most trilateral roots in Hebrew, to be honest, is a kind of set of images, right? And that's a better way to think about it than kind of this transference to an English definition, right? You have this, you know, sin, ayin, resh, the trilateral root that undergirds this word, has this kind of imagery, right? It's things that are bristling around like hair, okay? Or like barley, right? Barley is this thing that kind of bristles like hair in the wind, okay? And goats are things that kind of bristle around, is hairy, right? So it's this kind of imagery, this kind of shimmering, whirly imagery that this word is trying to kind of bring forth. Okay, and it tells you a couple of things. There may be a reason why this word is repeated twice here, and then later texts as well, later parts of the text. It tells you a couple of things. One, of course, being hairy, right, or a he-goat in particular, right, and maybe showers of rain, which is also what this word can mean, year can mean, right, you know, as well as barley. You know, all of these, you know, are terms that signify fertility, right? If you have a lot of hair, this is one way of being, you know, signifying that you're fertile, right? Certainly showers of rain insinuate that you're fertile, he-goat to some degree, right? So it may be using this word here to talk about what Boaz gives her, to insinuate, of course, again, that Boaz is very fertile. It may also, to talk about it really quickly, you know, because it has this kind of motion, it may also tell you about Ruth's state, right? That she is really actually, and again, you're not told ever what she feels, right? Like a lot of female characters, but it can tell you that she's also kind of shivering, right? Because she's scared, right? I mean, this is a big move. He could do a lot of damage here. She's put herself in a very dangerous position. Okay. And so you do wonder if also the kind of shimmering is talking about how she's frightened of what's going to happen. Okay. Okay. So with that, please go on to the next video and I will continue the translation.